Yo, live and direct from the mothership. This not gonna be on some other shit. My name's Hitsu Yawaku, Sovereign Identity Architect at your service. I come to you not as the reality, but as the myth, because that's what every brand is, a myth. By blending brand strategy, digital literacy, systems thinking, and Afrofuturist philosophy, I help melanated creators remember who the fuck they are and build sovereign empires that reflect their soul and not the algorithm. 俺は格が違うんだよ。Look around the internet right now. It's loud, fast, flooded with sameness and similarity. Everyone's creating, but no one's really differentiating themselves. We're living inside what I call the bizarre bazaar, a hyperreal digital marketplace where human attention is the new currency and identity is the product being sold back to you. AI has turned content creation into a commodity. Anyone can generate thousands of posts, thousands of logos, thousands of taglines in minutes. The barrier to entry has collapsed, but that also means that the barrier to imitation has collapsed too. The bizarre bazaar rewards volume over vision. It doesn't care who made it, it only keeps scrolling. This is why so many creators, founders, and brands are stuck. They've adopted AI faster than they've defined why they exist. They're automating confusion at scale. AI didn't make this problem, though. It just made it impossible to hide anymore. And with that said, AI isn't evil, but it's neutral, neutral in like the sense of fire. It amplifies whatever system you give it. If your system is incoherent, it scales your chaos and incoherence. If your system is strategic, it scales your sovereignty. So before we talk about prompts or platforms, we have to talk about architecture because in the bizarre bazaar, everyone has access to the exact same tools. So with that, what actually separates the sovereign from the scavenger? It must be their strategy. We're going to expose the illusion that keeps so many creators stuck. The belief that AI can replace identity because it cannot. And trying to use it that way is the fastest route to becoming invisible. Let's talk about the lie that's running wild right now. The idea that AI will save you time, build you a brand, and make you unstoppable just because you're using it. That is an absolute illusion. AI doesn't save time, it multiplies your output. And if your direction is unclear, it just multiplies all of your mistakes at each step of the path. AI made it easy to create, but it didn't make it easier to matter to an audience. Every platform is flooded with what I call synthetic similarity, posts that read like they were created by the exact same ghostwriter. Voices stripped of soul, brands stripped of story and meaning because people are chasing the wrong metric. Speed. I show speed. They want shortcuts. They want quick hacks. They want 50 tricks from Sunday. But in branding, every shortcut cuts out meaning. It cuts out vision. It cuts out value. Here's the pattern I've seen over and over and over again. Founders adopt the technology before they actually have a real brand system in place. They start producing faster. Engagement spikes for a moment, then it all collapses because there was no substance underneath. They built their castle on top of sand. They mistake activity for architecture, notifications for narrative, and that's where they fail. So please understand that AI isn't the villain. The villain is laziness disguised as innovation. You can't outsource the part of the work that gives your brand an actual soul. That's strategy. That's identity. That's the vow. And AI doesn't create that at all. It reflects it as you work with it. And if there's nothing to reflect, it gives you back static. So here's the deep cut. AI won't fix a broken brand. It'll expose it faster. If you don't know who you are, the algorithm will show the world your confusion on repeat. And that's not a strategy. That's self-sabotage on autopilot in turbo mode. The smartest creators aren't asking, how do I use AI? They're asking, what do I want AI to amplify? Because until you answer that question, every shortcut leads you to nowhere land. I'll show you how to make AI actually work for you by plugging it into a system built for meaning. That system is called the primal ontological loop. So far, we've seen the illusion. AI isn't the villain, at least generally speaking. The real problem is using a machine without a map to guide you. What you need is a system that can hold your creativity, your identity, your tools in one coherent flow. That system, again, is called the primal ontological loop, or the POL for short. The loop itself has four stages. One, tool, what you build or use to create change. Two, expression, how that tool feels and communicates. Three, identity, the pattern people recognize in your signal. And four, meaning, the vowel that gives it all a purpose. Then it loops back again. Because once you crystallize meaning, it generates new tools. And that is what makes the system autopoietic. That is what makes this feedback system alive. The POL is not a theory, it is the oldest creative architecture on Earth. Humans have always moved through this loop. They built tools, expressed them through culture, formed identity around them, and then attached meaning to the entire cycle. And that's how myths were born. AI doesn't replace this cycle, it plugs into it. Stage one, tool, AI as amplifier. AI belongs here in stage one. It's a tool, an extension of your will. It helps you do what you already know how to do faster and at scale. But if you haven't defined the function, the tool cannot perform it for you. The right question, again, isn't how do I use AI? It's what function in my system does AI actually serve? When you treat it as a tool, AI becomes an amplifier of focus and flow, not a replacement for actual genuine human thinking. Stage two, expression, the interface between you and the field. This is where your work gains its emotional charge. Expression is how your essence becomes legible, your tone, your design, your storytelling. All of that is interface design for consciousness. So if the tool is the hardware, expression is the UI, the user interface. This is where you train AI to mirror your tone, your aesthetics, your mythic rhythm, not to sound like everyone else, but to speak in your frequency and in your cadence. Stage three, identity, the signal that holds the pattern. Identity is the pattern people feel from consistent expression. It's how your brand becomes recognizable even when your logo isn't on it. Here's where the feedback loops matter the most. Every interaction, that means every comment, every email, every repost, every retweet, etc., 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 is data showing how the world reads your signal. If your brand feels fractured, it's because your loop is out of sync. When your tools and expression align, your identity stabilizes. That's when AI can start helping you measure resonance, not just performance. Stage four, meaning, the vow that powers the system. Meaning is what your meaning is what turns your brand from marketing into movement. It's the inner reason why your system exists in the first place. AI cannot generate this for you. AI cannot generate this for you. AI cannot generate this for you. It can only extend what's already there. Meaning is human, it is sacred, it is unoutsourceable. When you know your vow, every tool, including this goddamn AI, serves it instead of steering it. You remain the captain of the ship. Meaning is the firewall that keeps automation from turning into assimilation. Once you've gone through all four stages, something really powerful happens. Meaning then feeds back into the tool stage. You retool, you refine, you reinvent. Each loop sharpens your sovereignty. AI then evolves with you, not ahead of you. That's how you stay human in the machine age. Well, look at what happens when you skip this process. The real world cost of letting AI define your direction instead of amplifying your design. Because in the bazaar, the ones without systems aren't creators, they are inventory. So let's keep it funky for a second. Every creator I've seen crash in the new wave had one thing in common. They adopted AI before they had defined their brand. They thought more tools meant more traction. It didn't. It doesn't. It just meant more noise, more slop, faster. This is the fallout. Hundreds of creators, founders, coaches, innovators using the exact same prompts, posting the exact same language with the same half smile, half ass Canva aesthetic, different names, identical outputs. They call it productivity. I call it mass self erasure. When you skip brand strategy, you lose your compass. You can't find your voice, and AI can't find it either. So it'll borrow someone else's. And the more you post, the faster you disappear into the similarity, into the simulacra, into the hyper reality. You get swallowed up. You don't stand out. You blend in, then fade away. Your engagements are going to drop. Your followers will scroll past. You start second guessing yourself. And so you think that you can prompt harder, but the prompt wasn't the issue in the first place. It's the absence of guiding principles. Let's make this real for a moment. For almost 10 years, I was collecting skills like artifacts, writing, design, teaching, tech, software engineering, energy work. I had talent out the wazoo, but no goddamn system. I could build you anything, but I couldn't coherently explain who I was or what I stood for. And that is what ultimately kept me invisible. I spent a decade failing at personal branding because I didn't understand the rules of the digital arena. I didn't understand the algorithmic language of identity. Then in 2025, my dirty 30, I did something different. Instead of chasing strategies, I trained AI to teach me branding from first principles, not as a marketing gimmick, but as a mirror. I then fused what the machine showed me with 10 years of my own research, from mythology and cybernetics to psychology, metaphysics, and Afrofuturism. That process became the foundation of the primal ontological loop. And for the first time, everything actually clicked for me. I launched in August 2025. Now, just a few months later, I've delivered classic lectures, multiple classic lectures at that, partnered with KTL Media, and I'm making a surprise appearance on 363 Empire. These are two platforms that I've followed personally for over a decade. Now I'm in direct conversation with people I once studied as legends. That isn't luck. That's architecture. I got the same tools you got, but with a different foundation. And the proof is in the pudding. AI did not make my brand. The POL did. AI just amplified the system that I finally built for myself. This is the difference between automation and alignment. AI without identity is going to drain you of all your creative essence. AI with identity is going to scale you into the greatest heights of liberation and self authorship. In the bazaar, attention is infinite, but trust is extinct. People don't buy products and they don't want to be sold to anymore. They buy patterns they feel. They buy worlds that they can believe in. And no amount of automation can fake the funk. If you skip strategy, you're not building a brand at all. You're not building a business at all. You're building a slot factory for the algorithm. So now that we've seen the cost, let's talk about the cure. In this final segment, we'll close the loop with a strategy that turns AI into an ally, a system of perpetual motion where every tool you use strengthens your myth instead of erasing it. Everything we've talked about today leads right here. AI isn't the threat at all. Absence of structure is the threat. If you felt lost or inconsistent or invisible online, it's not because you don't have talent. It's because you've been moving without a loop, without an architecture. The world rewards creators who move with rhythm. Those who build systems, not reactions. Those who build worlds and not just random words. That rhythm is the primal ontological loop. When you move through it, tool to expression to identity to meaning, then back to tool again, you create perpetual motion. Ain't that what we all want? We all want some motion, right? Every action then builds gravity. Every piece of content trains the field to recognize your signal. This is how you stay sovereign in an age of machines. You don't need more hacks. You need an architecture. That's what the POL Brand Accelerator is. It's a 4-week system rebuild for creators, innovators, disruptors, and polymaths who want to stop chasing algorithms and start building ecosystems. We go deep into each stage of the loop. You start with identifying your starting tool, the one function that defines your value. Then you master your expression. That means your tone, your rhythm, your visual aesthetic. You stabilize your identity after that so people know what you stand for without having to guess. And finally, you anchor all of your meaning. And this becomes the vow that makes your work magnetic for generations to come. By the end of this, you don't just have a brand, you have a brand system that every tool, including AI, can plug right into. Let me repeat this loud and clear. AI is not the strategy. It is the amplifier of a strategy that already exists. When your loop is coherent, the machine becomes a mirror. When it's not, that machine becomes a devouring monster, a parasite. This is the era of the sovereign creator. Those who can build systems around identity and meaning will rule the bizarre bazaar. Those who don't will be consumed by it, and you can decide which one you'll be. If you're ready to stop reacting and start architecting, join me inside the POL Brand Accelerator. Let's build the system that keeps your signal alive. Build the myth before you automate it. 俺は格が違うんだよ. Translation, I'm built different. Now, with all of that out of the way, I wanted to take a quick step into my portfolio just so the family could really see what my process looks like. Of course, I can't go full in detail with it, but just take a look at the care and the attention to detail that comes, the quality of outputs that come when you actually take the time to develop a proper branding system in order to build and perpetuate your business. All right. We have everything in here. We have everything in here. We start with some archetypal definitions. What is the role that the brand is playing? What is the industry and domain they're working in? What is the challenge? Where are we starting from? What is the focus of the concept that we're building? Then we go into the actual process, which is a pipeline that moves from brain dump to brand design. I make you spit out everything, every single detail you can about your dream. And that's the starting point where we begin to do the excavation of tools, where we begin to learn the seeds of expression. We begin to see the imprints of the identity that you're trying to generate, and then the meaning that it's going to push into the world. This is the process that actually allows us to do that. Excavation, recognition, refinement, systemization. Then we go on to the brand ontology. This is brand purpose as the tool, brand values as your expression, brand mission as your identity, and brand vision as your meaning. All of that collapses in on itself to create what's known as the sovereign positioning statement, where you differentiate yourself from the rest of the market and let them know who you stand for and who you stand against with no unclear terms. Then we go into what's known as the minimum mythic stall. This is the minimum viable product, the least engaged, the least over-engineered system that you can use to now create a funnel, a lead magnet into the deeper aspects of your brand. So we start with your signature tool, and then we build out from there with ritual consultations, where people can now seek your advice on the skills that you have. And then we turn that into a free lead magnet, which allows people to enter your world with a low barrier. Next, we focus on your messaging, How are you actually going to communicate the value that you are bringing to your audience in a way that they can grasp and understand? So my tri-pillar messaging system includes philosophy, process, and proof. We talk about the theory behind what we're doing. We talk about the actual step by step of what we're doing. And then we show the receipts to prove that our process actually works in real time. Then we have our tonal archetype sliders. This is how we actually begin to flesh out what your voice sounds like, how your brand shows up in terms of its expression. So we have 5 different axes that measure 5 different qualities that you can have along these different spectrums. Trickster to torchbearer, oracle to artisan, sentinel to explorer, sage to warrior, beacon to chameleon. Once we have this, we're able to generate an archetypal image, an archetypal character that defines the identity of your brand in terms of the expression and the way that expression makes the audience feel when they engage with you. Then we go into the strategic logic behind why certain decisions were made over others. Then we explain the archetype, the aesthetic, and the narrative that now make the foundation of the brand as it presents itself to the people. And finally, my favorite part is the mood board, where we gather all of those different influences that are shaping you as a person, but also you as a brand, you as a soul. We bring them all into one place. And then we get to see how all of them come together in such a way to, again, build the world that you're going to be inviting your audience to invest in, to join in, to initiate into with you as the mentor, helping them along on their journey, helping them find resolution to pain points, helping them find solutions to problems. And now that I've shown you once, I'm going to show you again. This is my first client outside of myself, Creative Unicorn. The exact same process repeated on her brand, and you can see the uniqueness. You can see the iconic nature of what we're dealing with. You can see the crispness of the brand and the way it presents. because there was a system involved. It wasn't just the AI. The AI only helped me speed up the process of how the system is applied to a brand. You can see all the same things that I showed you with my brand as the example. You can see it right here, and you can see it in real time, moving, helping someone real accomplish their dream, their mission, and their dream and their mission is completely different than my own. They're into creative directing. They're into crystal wrapping. They're into early childhood development. You can see that in the way I decided to build out the brand, the bright colors, the cartoon aesthetics. You see what I'm saying? Drawing on the childhood nostalgia of Creative Unicorn herself, who was born in the early 80s and had her coming of age throughout the 90s. This is what we do, and this is how my process works in real time. Like I said, Orewa kakugachi gwandayo. I'm built different.